The Houston Astros win. No, they won the ninth. No, they tied the game. The Astros lost 7-4. We're going to talk about it on this implosion episode of Locked On Astros.
Alvarez hits a high drive center field. Beer leans back. This game is turned upside down. There's the runner. Fly ball down the right field line. Tucker comes on. Kyle Tucker. This time they finish the job.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talks Stros. Find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, where can they find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on Twitter and Instagram. They can find me at Stros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive. Positive. I hate watching games like that at the end. Always Stros.
All right, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It's the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. And guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day, whether it's on YouTube. Make sure you go and subscribe to us. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Even after a victory, we'll come on, put our smiley faces on, and put fake shake Brett on and everything.
Wait, dude, you got to calm on this fake shake stuff, dude. Like, I don't even know what that means. I'm slightly
it's
insulted.
It's a family thing I used to do with me and my kids. So anyway.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think it's Jack in Box actually, like fake shake. That's where it comes from. That's where it comes
bad.
From.
Okay. I just didn't know the context. I was like, should I be really insulted right now?
All right. But make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go and check out the Locked On Astros podcast. And I hate to be the first person to tell you that the Astros are 0-1 in games that Alex Bregman has extra base hit. So just get singles, strike out Alex Bregman.
What does that mean?
Just walk.
So our conclusions are Yanner Diaz, they're 3-0 with him. They're 0-1 when Alex Bregman gets a home run and a double. So, all things make sense in the world of baseball. But, look, I actually had one of the other Locked On hosts. I won't out him here because I didn't get his permission to out him on this. He literally, I don't know if it was an angry DM, but he said, I picked Cristian Javier high in my draft, and he has not performed up to par. And I said, I have no control over that.
Sorry, Charlie.
Has not been the Cristian Javier that we expected. He was so dominant last year. Now, a year like that is hard to replicate back-to-back seasons. You would like to think, though, that even though he did have a rough outing, he did go 6 innings. He did somewhat save the bullpen. It wasn't a 4-inning outing. But 3 strikeouts, he's not getting the spin. He's not getting the movement on his fastball, on that invisible that he was getting last year. So we hope that the next series he pitches in, probably against the Rangers or the next team they play, actually probably the next team because of the days, you would hope that he figures it out because he is one of the guys that we are counting on, especially with the absence of McCullers, and we know Justin Verlander not here this year.
Well, granted, I know he only had 1 walk in today's game, but he was struggling with command. The balls kept on rising really high, and then he gave up the 2 home runs. He had 5 hits on the game, 4 earned runs. It was not – I put struggle in the title, but, I mean, for Cristian Javier, this was a struggle, especially when the Astros offense can only score on home runs until the 9th inning. Then Chas McCormick had the 2-run double, and so that was just awesome to see. But I think that in this game, Javier was just struggling just with his command. It looked like he didn't really have his stuff. The velocity's down, the pitches were rising too much, and he just didn't really have the crisp control we're used to him having. Does that mean he's not going to be what the Astros need this year? No. I think he's just trying to figure out what it takes. And just keep in mind that a lot of these guys didn't get to have a full spring training because of the World Baseball Classic. They didn't get to work with the pitching coaches. They were thrown into competitive baseball. I mean, it was great competitive baseball, but they didn't get a chance to really work on stuff. They're working stuff in live games that meant something to them. And so I think Cristian Javier is still trying to get caught up. Am I worried about him long term? No. Am I worried about the velocity being down 2 miles per hour from last year? Yes. He still was hitting 95 miles per hour, but still his average is about 92, which is 94 last year.
Yeah, you need that velocity to be up, because the higher velocity that he has, Eric, that's where he gets his signature invisible. That's where the ball's moving. Now, I know look, MZ is a regular on our show, and I respect the heck out of this dude because he's here every day when we come on, and he's got great takes. But I think he's a little amiss on saying that Javier isn't as great as we've all touted him to be. I really do believe he is every bit of the pitcher that we think he can become. It's not like someone like a Dallas Keuchel that has one or two like really good years and then has a complete fall off, right? I just think what Javier has what we've seen in the scouting before he became an Astro, when he got to the club last year, he was just a few innings short of qualifying for the Cy Young Award. He was literally going to be top 3 in almost every pitching category. We've just got to get him figured out. And I promise you that Murphy and Miller are working overtime to get him in there, to get him back on track. And say what you want about the World Baseball Classic. I don't know how much positive or negative impact it had, but it doesn't seem like it's helped anybody.
Not Luis Garcia.
It's
really
just helped. And look, Jalen Johnson, says here he is a friend of the show. We've actually ran into him at a couple games. He said, look, I think that this more and more points to the Astros going after a starter at the trade deadline. And I think, Eric, this is the year that you do that you make a big move. Because at the end of the day, with 4 hits and 9 runs, your pitchers should be able to stave off a 3-run comeback. That home run by Ji-hwan Bae was a massive home run. And on that at bat, Eric, he had thrown a changeup, and then he had thrown a really hard slider down in the dirt. He went back to the changeup. The changeup didn't have as much movement, wasn't as lively. I'm wondering, of course, it's easy to, I guess, pick apart things after the fact, and when you're not on the mound making the call and you don't have the scouting report, as I don't. But I would have thought that he would have gone back to that hard slider, because he went back to a fastball. He went to a four-seam after that, almost lost control of it. And then he went back to the changeup. I think if you'd have gone with that hard slider down in the dirt, I think Bae would have swung and missed. I was hoping he would go back with that hard slider because it looked more effective than the changeup. What do you think? I mean, I know we're nitpicking here, but that's what you have to do. You have to analyze, because going into the next thing, that is your power. That is your big pitch. And I think you've got to stay with that. But Presley hasn't been impressive this year.
Well, as somebody just texted me a little while ago, she hates Presley in non-save situations, and I mean, I hate to be one to endorse that, but I mean, you're going to have to put your closer in a situation. But before we go on to Presley, you compared Dallas Keuchel and Cristian Javier. They're 2 different pitchers. Like Dallas Keuchel relied on location and deception and just outsmarting hitters, but Javier can just blow it by you. And so far this year, he's just not able to blow it by you, and that's why he's struggling a little bit. I'm not worried about that. I think that with time, it'll be fine. But I think that unlike Dallas Keuchel, I think that he'll be able to get it back going and get back on track, just because he's too good a pitcher. And I would just bet on that and just go ahead and go to FanDuel and say that he's going to probably still win 14 games if you're going to put that on me. So let's go and talk about FanDuel.
Yeah, that's right. FanDuel is the #1 sports book in America. That's right, for all MLB action. That's because right now new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets. If you don't win, that's okay, because you get $1,000 back. So don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. How many home runs is Kyle Tucker going to hit? How many home runs is Yordan Alvarez going to hit? you can build a mountain of props for each day for your favorite matchup. And when you do this, go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball.
All right. So I know a lot of people didn't bet on the Pirates winning a lot of games this year, but they look like they have a good young team. And I know they lost O'Neal Cruz for a good chunk of the season, but this team looks like they have some drive. They have Andrew McCutchen back to kind of be that veteran guy, and they've got some decent pitching. I think the Astros just played a better game on Monday night. Today's game was more of a what you expected to see, kind of a pitch. I mean, I'd say pitcher's fest. We were complaining about Javier. I think Javier, for not having his best stuff tonight, I think he kept the Astros in the game as much as possible. The Astros just left way too many runners on base, and it was just one of those games where you stranded 19 runners on base. That's how many individual. Then you had 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position. Team lob was 9. You had Bregman get his first home run. It was a blast. It was awesome. And everybody was like jumping for joy. He did get a double for later. And then you saw Kyle Tucker hit a home run that he thought was maybe going to be a double. And so he was like chugging it around the bases, and they were like, hey, slow down. But we saw Ji-Man Choi in the first inning or second inning hit a double off the wall or something that was basically almost like Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, I thought that, when he hit that ball, I was like, okay, 2 games, 2 home runs for Choi. I mean, he freaking owns the Astros right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know what to do with that guy. I mean, he's not supposed to hit a home run to get left-handed pitching, but he's doing it. So the Pirates went out there and got Carlos Santana. They have a couple young guys, and then they have Bay. I mean, everybody wants a Bay, right? Right?
You're such a boomer, dude. Everybody wants a. Isn't that like a 2018 phrase? Do people still call someone else a Bay?
I don't know.
I don't know if it's Boo, Bay. I don't know what it is. But look,
that was an impressive home run off of Presley, though. Presley, that was a changeup that was probably not in the right situation, and
that
as soon as it was hit, it was like boom. I was like, holy crap, that's the game.
If you're watching the show and the strike zone is my face, that changeup was right over my left eye. It was right in the middle of the plate, dude. It was gone. I mean, that's why I said he should have gone with that hard slider down the dirt. I don't think he would have made contact with that. But you live to play another day. You've got the 3rd game of the series. You've got Jose Urquidy. Who knows? Jose Urquidy, the guy that I thought was the least likely to get a win out of these 3 pitchers, might be the most likely to finish the series where they're 2-1 on the Pirates. But again, Presley has not been impressive. The bullpen did not do their job. Presley's ERA is an inflated 8.44. And of course, ERAs are going to be inflated at the beginning of the year, but Stanek is at 5.40. He did have 1 strikeout. He pitched 1 inning. Montero 1 inning, 2 hits, 2 strikeouts. And then Presley again with the 3-run home run. Look, Eric, the bottom line is all the parts that were working to perfection last year or near perfection aren't doing so right now. I wrote an article today for the game there in Louisiana, and I basically talked about how the slow start doesn't necessarily bother me because I think what this team has in the long run, they have more in the tank. I don't believe Abreu's washed up. I see a lot of negativity on our feed here. People just thinking, oh my gosh, the Astros are done. I mean, the way some of you guys are talking, I mean, do y'all want to sell the team? I mean, we've got to be willing to understand that this is a marathon, not a sprint. Myers is an absolute 0 at the plate, not doing anything at all right now. You want Myers. Look, next game, Jolks needs to get the start. Someone's like, why are we playing Myers? Well, you're playing Myers because you're paying Myers. He's getting a salary. So you're not going to not play him. He's going to get starts. You have to keep your guys fresh somewhat off the bench. And so you had Maldonado didn't get any hits. I mean, nobody really contributed outside of Tucker and Bregman. But I did like at the end how you had Dubon, you had Hensley, and you had McCormick all contribute. Right at the end, McCormick hadn't had a hit all game. And what does he do? He ties the game with a 2-run double. Absolute perfect situation. Your closer comes in. It's a non-save situation. Like you said, you don't like it, but he's there, as explained to me by a lot of people last time he was in a non-save situation.
You put your best pitcher in.
You want your guy in the ninth. And so he's supposed to get the job done. He's going to figure it out. I'm wondering, I know the first game he threw in, he was shaking his arm a lot, and Roger Clemens talked about that. We haven't heard a single word or a blip on the map or radar about Presley having any issues. I'm wondering, is he having any issues physically? Is he 100% healthy? And I'm not saying that he is because of what he's doing, but you have to ask, is there something to that? And is there something lingering in the back? Because these players aren't always 100% with us on what's going on. I think Abreu's going to be fine. He was 1 for 5 today. He's only failed to get a hit in one game. The lack of power is a little, I would think he would at least have one home run by now.
He had 15 last year, and after hitting 30-something the year before. So,
well, I just thought that he would return back to his power numbers because being at Minute Maid Park. And let's hope that he does that when they come back to Minute Maid against the Rangers, because they have an off day after the game on Wednesday.
All righty. So to go back to why Jake Meyers is starting and why you have to put some of the other guys in, that's what Dusty Baker says he does. He wants to put all the players in to make sure they get playing time. So when you need them in September, October, whenever you need them, they're ready. And the prime example of that is Mauricio Dubon. A lot of people last year were like, why are we playing him? He sucks. He should not be Justin Verlander's personal catcher. I even remember doing this. Justin Verlander's personal, not catcher, but center fielder. I mean. But he shouldn't be getting playing time because he wasn't getting hits. But by giving him playing time, he has found that little what he needed to get the hits. And he's feeling a lot more confident. And he's talked with Jose Altuve. He's talked with Yordan Alvarez, like we talked about yesterday. And he's not trying to crush the ball. He's just trying to make good contact, and he's not trying to get a hit. If he gets a hit, then that's great, but he's just trying to make contact. And we see a lot of people trying to crush the ball and striking out. So I think what we see is old school. I'm not saying Mauricio Dubon is a Tony Gwynn type hitter, but that's the philosophy that Tony Gwynn had, was not necessarily to hit the home run, but just to make contact and put the ball in play. And that's what we saw today. And there's one that Mauricio Dubon hit down the first base line that was just foul today. That would have been awesome in that game. So he's making some good run. And we're seeing some good play. Like, it was good to see Hensley get that hit when he struggled, but Julks probably does need to be in the lineup. But honestly, there's not, until you bring up Dearden, who did hit his first home run in AAA today. So I believe it was today. Until you bring him up or bring somebody else up, it's not going to be these are the guys you're going to have until Michael Brantley and Jose Altuve comes back.
Yeah, I just think that Julks has earned, well, and he has played most of the games so far. He's played more games than Jake Meyers, that's for sure. But Dubon, I believe he's only not contacted the ball in like 3 or 4 at bats. He's made contact with the ball, put the ball in play, and about I would say 29 or 30 of his 33 at bats in 2023 this year. So let's see, he had where's Dubon? He had 3 at bats today.
Still one strikeout. One strikeout in the entire time.
One strikeout. But what I'm saying is there's only been 1 or 2 other times where he hasn't even put the ball in play. And so that's what you need. You need guys to do this. Yeah. And someone says, I think it's Jalen said, that maybe the Pirates are the O's this year, or the Orioles. And I don't know if you saw the Orioles. This was interesting.
Playing one more game. That's good.
All right. Well, look, here's the deal. The Orioles, I think one of the Orioles, I don't know if it's Adley Rutschman or Gunnar, but I can't remember who it was. When he got on second base, he did the whole like water sprinkler thing, looked in the dugout, and all the guys acted like they were water sprinklers with their water and stuff. And a friend of mine said, I want the Orioles to make the playoffs just because they're a vibe right now. Like, they are just enjoying playing baseball. And that's where the Astros need to get. They need to get back to where the games are fun, where they're not pressing, but that all comes with performance and delivering in the moment. And they just haven't been as tough as nails as they were this last year. Again, this season is going to be riddled with various things that we didn't experience last year. So there's no reason to jump off the train. There's no reason to think that the ship is sinking. There's not a hole in the bottom of the boat. This is baseball, and baseball is going to happen. And you're going to have nights where you have 9 hits, 5 runs, and you don't win. We had 9 hits, 6 runs, and we got beat at home. So these things are going to happen. And look at Ryan Mountcastle. Maybe it was him. He had 9 RBIs tonight for the Orioles. Yeah, that kid's a really, really good player.
Yeah, I should have kept him in fantasy.
Oh, man, why did you let him go? And I'm joking. On the next Astros baseball. So
I had Paul Goldschmidt. I didn't need him.
Oh, okay. Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah, we will not talk about my fantasy lineup. I've got like 3 guys on the IL. It's kind of depressing, but I'm actually winning this week. Hopefully, I can pull out a dub. Last week I got trounced, but I'm hoping keeping Juan Soto and not trading him for Trey Turner bodes well for me this week. And you know what I did today? I had someone else on my second team that I wanted to put in place of Bregman. And I sat Bregman today. Wow. I sat Bregman, and he stuck it to me.
Wow, you would not be a good
GM. But let me tell you something. There's this really cool app. This game is called Ultimate Pro Baseball GM. Download the app or go to probaseballgm.com. It's 100% free boost when you use a promo code Locked On in the game shop. That's right. Let me tell you, I've been playing this game. It's a blast. You get to draft players. You get to train your players. You get to encourage your coaches, sign your coaches to contracts. You get to set the salary cap. You get to pay the players what you want. But be careful. You've been warned by H. John Wheelhouse that if you spend too much and you don't win the World Series, the owner won't like it very much. And after a few seasons of ALCS and going to the playoffs, I got canned. Why? Because I spent too much money, kind of like young 14-year-old H-Town Wellhouse who didn't know how to keep a budget. So if you love being a GM, if you like playing baseball games on your phone and you want to occupy your time with the realistic ultimate GM game, go to probaseballgm.com today. Use a promo code Locked On for a 100% free boost to your team. Let them know that Locked On Astros sent you. Ultimate Pro Baseball GM. It's the best game out there.
It was a cool situation today. While the Astros were in Pittsburgh, Martin Maldonado came up with the idea to go tour the Roberto Clemente Museum. And so you had 15 players and then Dusty Baker and then about another 10 people went. Yeah. And so they had a private tour of the Roberto Clemente Museum. So that was pretty cool. And this is Jeremy Pena knew a lot about Clemente, but he didn't really know the whole backstory. And he said that it was just cool to get to know the story for real, going there, hearing everything, how he came up, how he get to the big leagues, what he did on and off the field, how he passed away. It made me feel more of a connection because Maldonado just invited a lot of the Latin players to go. Pena, Diaz, Blanco, Abreu all went. He also had Bregman, Abreu, Neris, and Dubon went as well. But it's just cool that they got a chance to do that. And it's just awesome. I mean, despite the early start to the game, they still had a chance to do that. The museum opened earlier for them. So, Martin Maldonado was like, hey, I'm a veteran now. This is my way of paying it forward. And a lot of the things that we've been talking about, what Maldonado offers to a team is not just what he can do at the plate, not just what he can do behind the catching the ball, but just what he could do as a team leader. And I think that was a good teaching moment. And so did it help the Astros win today's game? No, you can't really prevent Ryan Presley from from throwing a change up down the middle of the plate to your base.
Yeah. Visiting museums not going to change your luck in any shape because baseball is a game of chance. A lot of times it's a game of luck. It's, you may want to hit the ball to right field, but it might go to right center, right to that outfielder. And look, you have to have a short memory. As much shade's being thrown at Presley and the bullpen and Stanek and everybody, isn't happy with this guy or this guy. These guys are going to go to sleep. They're going to put it behind them, and they're going to go out to grind another day. They're not going to let it hang on them the way we as fans hang on them, because you cheer for the Astros with your heart and your soul, and you want them to win every game, and we get that. But we have to temper our expectations this year. I still believe we're the favorite. I still believe we are one of the top 3 teams in the AL. I still think we're the best team in the AL. We're just not doing what we can do. We're not doing what we're capable of. And if this team's fully healthy, firing on all cylinders, there's not a team out there that's better than this team. I know it's a weaker team without Justin Verlander, blah, blah, blah. But I still think that at the end of the day, we have one of the top teams, Eric. And you just have to weather the storm.
Are we going to discuss the Evan Gattis stuff at all?
Evan Gattis drunk tweeting and I mean, not really. I don't really want to give that a whole lot of credence, because I mean, he was literally tweeting stuff when he was drunk, saying stuff that at times was wildly inappropriate, and I don't really want to give that any airtime. I don't think it deserves it. I think if you're on Twitter and you've seen it, that's great, but that's my take on it. I could really care less what Evan Gattis says when to me, it looked like he needs a little help. I mean, I'm concerned about Evan Gattis. Like, he needs an intervention bad. I mean, no offense, but that's just uncalled for.
Well, one thing that stood out to me is the fact that he said every time he was out in left field, he felt nervous and playing out in the field. And he did mention that he was on something at the time. I'm not going to go into any details. You have to go find the chat. And he did mention that stuff happened during the World Series on both sides. And so you'll have to go check out the feed and Evan Gattis. So if you're not on Twitter, go get on Twitter.
Well,
and go find Evan Gattis, because it's a hoot.
And the only thing that national publications really focused on was the fact that he talked about the whole trash can thing, which he already talked about. Like, he talked about that 2 years ago. So it's not news. And like I said, look, when someone gets on Twitter and just irresponsibly tweets stuff, I just think that that's just something that really needs to not even be pumped up or promoted, because you or I wouldn't do that. I mean, if we did that, we'd be in serious trouble, just because it's a bad look. Like, you've got to be responsible with how you are on Twitter. I mean, just with your daily engagements. That's why if I get in a tiff with someone, I try to make it right. I try to explain myself and try to move on, because at the end of the day, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. So James says, I don't, Brett, not this year. A down year is due. Okay, well, look, hey, you guys can keep us out of the playoffs. You guys can be negative Nancy's all you want to. I'm still locked on the Astros going to the playoffs. I'm still locked on the Astros going back to the World Series. And until they get beat and knocked off, you're not going to convince me otherwise.
All right, they're going to trade for Shohei Ohtani mid-season. I'm kidding. God, what would that trade package look like?
Oh, it would obliterate. They would need all Sugarland, all Fayetteville. It would, and then several fans would have to send their right arm. I mean, it would be a bloodbath, literally a bloodbath.
Yeah. So I'm sure if the Astros are above 500 or close to the playoffs, I mean, they're not that far out of it right now. And I'm not worried. It's only 11 or 12 games in right now. So I'm not too worried about this season. They're getting off to a slow start. Who cares? I think everything's going to be fine. Today, one pitch.
And Yuli only has one home run this year. Don't say we need Yuli because he hit a home run. He hit a home run and they were down 12-0, and he hit a home run. It was a garbage run. We love Yuli. We've never been against Yuli, but Yuli's not coming back to the Astros. And if you're looking for him to fix your offensive woes, you're barking up the wrong tree. So I don't know. So look, here's the deal. Ethan shared this, and I want to share this before we go, and I'm going to close with this. This is kind of cool. Ethan from Locked On Pirates says Choi and Bae are the first Korean-born teammates to homer in the same game in MLB history. So, hey, there you go. There's a positive lining to us getting our butts whipped by the Pirates.
They are Baes forever.
Yeah. Thanks, Ethan, for rubbing the salt in the wound. Kick my dog while you're at it. No, I'm joking. But hey,
All right.
for me,
All right.
that's all I got, dude.
In tomorrow's game, it's like you said, it's going to be Jose Urquidy. He's 0-0 with a 3.86 ERA, 11 strikeouts versus Rich Hill, who's very impressive. He's 0-1 with a 10 ERA, 8 strikeouts. And a lot of people have faced Rich Hill, who's had success. Pena in 2 at-bats is 500, and Tucker, 3 at-bats, 667. Abreu in 5 at-bats, 400. So let's hope that there's some offense tomorrow, and let's hope that Bregman, despite this loss, and in fact, and after he hit his first extra base hit, I'm not really thinking that he was the cause of this. We need to get him going. If Bregman starts hitting, and if Pena starts hitting, and some of these other guys starts hitting, this lineup won't have to rely on Jose Abreu. But there's a couple times when they're going pitching around Alvarez to get to Abreu, and because you have Tucker behind Abreu, at some point we may have to switch that dynamic, because Tucker is pretty darn good, and you're not going to be walking Alvarez to get to Tucker. Let me just say that.
That's true. That's
all I got for this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast. We'll be back tomorrow. We're probably not going to be right after the game because we're both teachers. So it's an early game. So we'll be some point, maybe we'll still do 8:30 start time. We'll see. Brett and I will communicate, but thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Go and subscribe to us on YouTube, and go and give us a big fat thumbs up while you're at it, and go and make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Check out the Locked On Astros podcast, and we will see you tomorrow, and go Astros.
Love the music.